Hi there, and welcome to the 49th episode of Career Stories Live. So today I'm joined by Gus Bhandal. So welcome, Gus. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me, Sarah. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's cool. So Gus and I met through the Espresso Plus community to start with, and then we've met each other a few times in person at various networking things, including the amazing Uplift Live, which we'll talk about later. Yes, on brand as usual. So anyone that's watching, please do comment to let us know you're here, where you're joining from. Feel free to ask any questions or share your experience. And if you're watching on replay, then also leave comments and we'll come back to them. Just as a very quick basis for the lives, I've always been really interested in what people do and why they do it, learning about different roles. And the aim really is to inspire thought about what people could do and give people advice on places to source information. And normally I get some great advice, which just from what we've chatted about behind the scenes, I'm sure that's going to be the case as well. So, Gus, can you give me a brief intro to you and what it is you're doing work-wise right now?
Absolutely. Thank you, Sarah. So my name's Gus. So what I do at the moment, so what I jovially, I tell people that I'm the UK's #1 LinkedIn trainer,
Yeah.
according to my mum. But what I actually do, so I run a LinkedIn marketing agency. So I help business owners with their LinkedIn profiles, etc. But I'm a marketing strategist by trade. So I tell people that let's start with LinkedIn, and that's the bit that I teach people how to do. But then I actually have all the marketing strategy to, to find other things that they need to do, in conjunction with LinkedIn, basically.
Excellent. Okay. So has your mum seen you training LinkedIn?
Uh, no, she hasn't. No, she's seen a few videos and a few screenshots, etc. But no, she hasn't. She hasn't. I mean, she'll say I'm the #1 at anything because
Yeah, that's
she's
true. That's
a
true.
very proud mom, of course. And who can
Yeah,
argue with moms, right?
exactly. And am I right? Remember, I sat next to your aunt at Uplift Live. Was that right? Was
That's
she there?
correct. Yeah,
Yeah. And she,
my mom's sister was there.
yeah,
She's
excellent.
yeah. She also thinks I'm good. Yeah, so that was
You
that
did.
was nice. Yeah, it's nice to have her
Yeah,
support as well.
it was really cool. Okay, so early careers. Did you have a job whilst you were at school or at college or at university? And if you did, has that helped you in any way?
Yes, and yes. So my very first job, my proper job where I got paid was, so I did lots of agency work over kind of like school holidays and things like that. And I worked
Yeah.
in a factory where they made kitchen doors, and I worked in for like a food packaging place, and I worked in a supermarket stacking shelves, etc. But my first proper job was actually a night shift in my local petrol station. Um,
Okay.
yeah, and it that taught me a lot about customer service, and I think that's the thing. And obviously, we'll talk today about that. And it's one of the things is it's all about making people feel good and feel happy, and kind of obviously directing them to what they need. And in a at night in a petrol station, people generally just buy petrol. They come in, but actually at night, because you're in the kiosk and the door is locked, they're
Yeah.
very directing, like, oh, I need this, or I'm looking for this, etc. So it's very much kind of helping others to get what they want. And actually,
Yeah.
I've never really talked about that before. I never really thought about it like that before. But
Oh, yeah.
it's a customer service thing, as opposed to just taking their money for them paying
Yeah.
petrol. But that was,
Yeah.
yeah, that was my job when I was 16 years old.
Well, that's cool. And shelf stacking as well. I guess that must have been
Yeah,
interesting.
so rather than, it wasn't shelf stacking in a supermarket, it was in like in the warehouse. So it was like kind of
Okay.
putting pallets on shelves, so that kind
Yeah,
of we can then pick it back off to then send it off in trucks to
yeah,
supermarkets.
yeah,
So we had a number of orders that we had to kind of take off the shelves and deliver, and
yeah,
to the truck, so they go off to the
yeah,
supermarkets.
yeah. But I mean, I guess that gives you an understanding of how businesses work as well, doesn't it? All the
Hmm.
logistics around it. So it's all really helpful.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. A lot of background stuff. I think that's the thing, and we all know the old cliche, the image of, there's the iceberg at the top, but the iceberg below is much deeper, kind of thing. There's so much that
yeah,
goes in the background.
yeah, yeah. No, that's cool. Okay, so did you go to university?
I did, yes. Yeah. So I went to a university called London. At the time, it was called London Guildhall, and then it merged, and now it's called London Metropolitan. So yeah, so I lived in the Midlands. So I'm Coventry based, born and bred in the Midlands. And then I decided I want to go further afield, and I thought, right, and I was enamored by the bright lights of London town. So yeah, I went to university and I studied a whole myriad of subjects before falling onto marketing.
Yeah. Okay. I've just seen a comment coming through. So John Esperian, hi John, can't work out what Gus's favourite colour is.
So it's yeah. We'll all guess. We'll all guess.
Okay, yeah. So that was interesting. So how did you? And we talked about this briefly offline. So how did you decide on your degree subject?
So essentially, it's because I failed at everything else. So what I did was, so during my, and John actually knows this story. So because I spoke this about like, so I did an event called Failed Nights where it was all about my kind of my life's failures, if you know what I mean, the presentation, and I kind of
Yeah.
went through step by step. And actually, so when I was choosing my GCSEs, I was quite good at French, and I thought, oh, and it was around the time when Italian football was on TV, so I thought, oh, I'd be great at French football commentary. So I chose French for GCSE. I failed it, so that scuppered my plans to be a football commentator. And then I decided I wanted to be a lawyer, and my teachers at the time said, oh, you should do history for A level. So I did
Yeah.
history for A level, and then I failed that. So I can't be a lawyer. So then I also studied psychology. So I thought, right, I'll study psychology at university. So I went to university, I studied psychology, and I failed that. And then I studied sociology, and I didn't understand what was going on there. And I did a couple of other subjects, and then kind of flicking through the prospectus, I got to marketing, and I thought, right, this is kind of almost my last resort. And it was the one thing that I didn't fail. So, and I think it's because it became second nature. I kind of, when you read through marketing and kind of I understood marketing. I didn't really understand French or history or
Yeah.
psychology and stuff like that. So, um, and that's kind of how I started my career. So the subject that I chose at university that I fell into and the one that I passed with, to be honest, was a result of the fact that I failed at everything else. So I kept
Yeah.
trying, basically. I kept trying until I found something that I was good at, which is
Yeah.
generally what life should be about, right?
Yeah, that's true. And I think it just shows the importance, I guess, of considering different options as well at a kind of A-level stage, and not going down traditional routes like law or
Hmm.
teaching or whatever it is, but actually widening horizons a bit, maybe more businessy focused is useful for some people.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I'm very proud of the fact that I've got a marketing degree and a couple of
Yeah,
postgraduate marketing qualifications. So I've got loads of letters after my name and all that kind of
yeah,
stuff. And obviously,
yeah,
I run a marketing agency now. However, having said that, some of my strongest competitors and most kind of impressive competitors don't have that background in marketing or that education in marketing. They did all sorts of things like, you know, kind of I don't know, philosophy or
yeah,
French or you
yeah,
know, they started a legal career or something like that. Because sometimes it's just finding what you're good at. That's not necessarily what you're educated in.
yeah,
Education teaches you to you know, sit exams and do coursework and have be disciplined and you know, learn about the world and all that kind of stuff.
yeah,
But actually really honing your craft and being good at something takes, as we know, it's the cliche is always it takes 10,000 hours to be good at something kind of thing. So,
yeah,
and that doesn't necessarily have to be what you studied.
yeah. No, that's a really good point, definitely. Okay, so after uni, then how did you start your career?
So, so after university, I applied for a few jobs. Obviously, it's the old catch 22. You know, if you don't have experience, you can't get a job and all that kind of stuff. So I actually threw myself into some volunteering roles locally. I worked for a couple of kind of local small firms like insurance firms, etc., kind of helping them with their day-to-day kind of marketing stuff. And in those days, they were talking about kind of early 2000s here. Their marketing stuff was basically writing copy for their newspaper advert or kind of generally just sitting at the front talking to people as they come in or copywriting posters that they would stick in their windows, etc. So that kind of stuff. And then through a recruitment agency, I got a job at Rolls Royce, and I thought, it's brilliant, it's Rolls Royce. And when I got there, they said, oh, actually, no, we're going to put you in the data entry department. So I was basically typing numbers all day, every day.
Yeah,
And they said, oh, we'll get you into the marketing department soon. I said, yeah, no problem. And this, like after 2 years, then they said, you can have a job in the marketing department, but we're moving it to Canada. So you'll have to move to Canada if you want a job in marketing. And I said, no, thanks. And then I found a local job as a kind of an administrator and then in a vehicle rental firm, basically. So I went from Rolls Royce working in marine and defense and aerospace into working in a vehicle rental place, which was very different. And again, that was customer facing. That
yeah,
was kind of as the sales and marketing administrator, I would be responsible for cold calling and sorting
yeah,
our adverts and all that kind of stuff. So that taught me about people skills, I think. So that's kind of that was my early career, as it were.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. And interesting that you did volunteering so early in your career, like before it started. But do you think that was really helpful?
Yeah, so essentially, because I failed my first year of university, because I failed psychology, then I did a
Yeah.
marketing degree, which was 3 years, and I didn't feel like I could take a gap year because then obviously it would make a degree 5 years, and then obviously my
Yeah.
parents would be like, "Why are you spending so much time in London?"
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so I did a 3 year degree, but obviously without the gap year, I kind of moved on and thought, "Oh, actually, I've got no experience." So the volunteering was to actually put, at the time, to put some experience on my CV, because I think that's what most people were looking for. And
Yeah.
because I couldn't get paid work, I thought, right, I'll do. I was in a lucky position where I could, my rent was paid and things like that. So it was, as in, this was when I was still at. I had just graduated from university,
Yeah.
but I had a grant which covered me for the rest of that year, kind of thing. So,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
yeah. So the volunteering was to get their experience to give, to put me on the next rung of the ladder.
Yeah, that's really good. And definitely that's something I talk about with students a lot now, is using volunteering to help. And whether
Mm,
that's through D of E, when you have to do like a 3 month or a 6 month, but make sure that volunteering actually is helpful. Don't
mm,
just go and do something that everyone else does just to get
mm.
your volunteering section. Do something that's going to help you in your career if you can.
Absolutely, yeah. It's
Yeah, good.
skills. It's the transferable skills. Again, you don't have to work in what you studied, but you don't have to work in what where you're helping. There's a lot of people skills, etc., and people skills, customer service skills, etc. Discipline and all that kind of stuff. It's the
Yeah,
things that people learn that will give them good skills for the rest of their life in whatever career they want to do.
yeah. And if nothing else, you learn what you don't want to do as well.
Mm. Yeah, that's true. I don't want, with all due respect to insurance people, I don't want to work in an insurance firm again.
No.
But it was fun. It was, it was great. But it just wasn't for me. In the
Yeah.
same way that French football commentating isn't for me, unfortunately.
Yeah. Interestingly, next week is Anne, who is in financial services, and she's talking about how exciting financial services can be. And I know
Hmm.
I'm looking forward to talking to that to her because she is so passionate about it. But I also worked in financial services and
Hmm.
really want to go back there again either.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah. Of course.
okay, so after the motor industry, you moved into like a council role. So what
Hmm.
prompted that move?
Yeah, so from Rolls-Royce into vehicle rental, I then went to work in the motorsport industry, and then my local authority, so Warwickshire County Council, they had particular kind of sector-based roles. So essentially it was marketing the region to the world. Now here in Coventry and
Okay.
Warwickshire, we have companies like Aston Martin, Jaguar Land Rover, lots of kind of tier one and tier two suppliers in the automotive industry, and
Yeah.
the focus was that so they had a role come up where somebody with automotive and motorsport marketing experience could market the region to
Right.
suppliers that would come into England, like so from abroad. So we would talk to
Yeah.
international companies to bring them into the UK to then set up a base near the companies that they work with, such as Jaguar Land Rover or Aston Martin, etc.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like, so it was interesting because it was like a civil servant role. It was working with a local authority,
Yeah.
but it was also in a sector that I loved. So I got to talk to automotive and engineering and motorsport companies kind of all day, every day, it was really fun. I loved it, and that was the longest job I've had in my career, actually. So yeah,
Yeah.
I really love that.
Oh, that's good. Did you notice any big differences in, I don't know, like culture and stuff, moving from corporate environment into council environment?
Um, Hopefully none of my ex-colleagues are watching, but I mean, I hope lots of people are watching, but not
Yeah.
my ex-colleagues. I think one of the things with a local authority was that there was no drive. I think there was a lot of things that people kind of got their salary and went home. It's very
Yeah.
different now, but at the time that I was there, when you're in a corporate career, you have targets, you have to hit things, and as in hit targets, etc. And obviously, if you don't achieve those targets, there's going to be consequences. What I
Yeah.
felt like in a local authority, there weren't too many consequences, and it's because it's a government body. There's so much room for error, as in if somebody
Yeah.
kind of if there was a disgruntled employee that would take you to a tribunal, etc., it's amplified when it's a local authority and a government organization, etc. So I think that it was, they almost had a bit of a laissez-faire attitude, and
Yeah.
going from a corporate firm into the council, to be honest, my first 6 months were very slow and very kind of like I didn't do very well because I
Yeah,
suddenly fell into a culture of, oh, I'll just get by kind of thing. It's, I'll
yeah,
do the bare minimum and get by, and I get my salary anyway, etc., and all that kind of stuff. And thankfully, I had a wonderful boss at the time that basically kicked my backside and said, no, no, you need to lead from the front. You come from a corporate firm, like a corporate world. You need to kind of do that. So having a good boss is always, we always remember good bosses and good teachers kind of thing. So my boss that I had at the local authority was fabulous. And but yeah, it's a very different culture, a very different culture.
yeah. Yeah, no, that's cool. And I know from clients that I've had that have gone that way, they've liked it because it's kind of sometimes a better work-life balance and that kind of stuff. And there's more flexibility for part-time working and job shares and all of that
Yeah.
kind of stuff. So there's pros and cons, isn't there?
And yeah, and absolutely based on that, I think that, again, because they have to lead from the front, being government organizations,
Yeah,
there was that, they didn't, if I worked because I did a lot of work in the evening, we did a lot of conferences, dinners, all that kind of stuff. If you worked extra, you would always get that time back. So
yeah,
that kind of flexibility was really good. And obviously the work day was very flexible in terms of you had to work a certain number of hours a week, but how you worked them was up to you. So
yeah,
I thought that kind of stuff is fabulous.
yeah,
And obviously this was many moons ago, and obviously now with the pandemic, that's the norm. But at the time, it wasn't, kind of thing. So
it
going from
was,
a corporate firm into local authority was like, oh, this is quite refreshing. So it's
yeah,
great.
yeah. No, that's good. So when did you then decide to set up your own business?
Um, but my marketing agency is my second business. So my first
Yeah,
business was actually my local pub. So what happened while I was working at the local authority, the owner of my local pub, sorry, I moved to a different part of Coventry, but growing up, my local pub there, like where my brothers drank and where my father drank and all that kind of stuff,
yeah,
um, the owner of the building said, "Oh, actually, I'm looking for a new landlord." And for some reason, I still have no idea why, I said I could do that.
yeah,
I'm going to look into this, and I did, and I became the landlord of my local pub for 3 years. So that was my first business, and actually, it was a real kind of going from a local authority into essentially working all hours that God sends. Because I would leave home about 9 o'clock in the morning, not get
yeah,
home until after midnight, and then do the
yeah,
same the next day. And I did this 7 days a week. Um, so my wife kind of stopped recognizing me. It's very, it's weird, because it was very heavy. However, I simply thought, yeah, this is a good thing. I could probably, do this. The whole idea was that it was going to be lucrative and set me up for life and all that kind of stuff. What I wasn't prepared for was how busy it was. However, what I did learn is how to run a business. I learned about staffing and HR and people management and all that. And then obviously I learned about having an accountant and filing accounts and VAT and etc. etc. So I learned a lot
yeah,
about business kind of thing. And actually, growing up, like I'm a massive introvert. Basically, I always stand in the corner at events. I try not to go anywhere if I can help it. The pub completely changed that because I had to stand behind a counter and talk to people all day long.
yeah,
And people,
yeah,
literally, people would come in to talk. It was very much like Cheers, the TV show Cheers.
yeah,
People
yeah,
would come in and kind of nurse a pint for a couple of hours because actually they just wanted some company and somebody to talk to, etc. So um, I loved it. It was fabulous. And then from the pub, obviously, because I was only there for a short time and I knew it was going to be a short time, then I set up my marketing agency. And because
right,
so a career in marketing plus the knowledge of running a previous business meant that it put me in good stead for running my own marketing agency.
yeah. No, that's good. And I've had a couple of guests before that have mentioned being introvert and actually working in the pub was a massive help for them because you are
Mm,
kind of forced into having those conversations and building relationships.
yeah.
Is interesting.
Yeah, I mean, in my career, like in the when I worked in the motorsport sector, and particularly when I worked for the local authority, there was a lot of things that I would do. Like I would help out with kind of, for example, interviewing staff. I would lead a team. I was managing a team, etc. Um, but no, nothing really sets you up in that kind of stuff than actually having your own team. And I think that
Yeah,
was the thing. When I had my own team, then it takes very careful management. We had a very volatile chef. He was the world's loveliest guy, but also he worked all day every day, and obviously if at any point he wasn't working, our restaurant would have to shut down. So there was we had to treat him very well, obviously.
yeah,
And it's all those kind of, people management, supplier management, making sure that, we have the right beers and our taps are clean and pipes are clean, and, we have the right float in the till, and all these other kind of little things that you don't really think about before customers actually walk through the door, and then you spend the rest of the day talking to them, and, and all that kind of stuff.
So many more challenges than you realize there and things like that.
Yeah. But the talking to people was the best part of my day. I absolutely loved it, so it was, it was great.
Learn so much about so many people.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Excellent. So you just touched on this. So you then switched your focus and kind of new business to marketing and social media. So I suppose, how did you know the time was right for that? What prompted you to finish at the pub and start something else?
So there was kind of it was like a double pronged approach, and the biggest thing was the fact that my son was born, basically. So my wife and I had a child, and I realized that I couldn't, because I was only sleeping at home. Like, I'd come home, I'd go to sleep, I'd wake up in the morning, brush my teeth, and then go straight back out, to the cash and carry and all that kind of stuff, etc. And I was doing this 7 days a week. So having a child meant that actually I couldn't be the pub guy and a family man at the same time. And you can't return children, so I had to get rid of the pub, basically. The pub was always going to be short term. That's the thing. It was always going to be short term, but having a son kind of accelerated that. So then it was, because I did all our marketing and our social media for the pub. Our competitors used to come in and say, "Who does your social media? Social media is fantastic." We used to say, "Oh, it's an agency," and all that kind of stuff. So when I left the pub, one of the catalysts to starting my own business was the fact that I thought I had ready-made customers. So I went to our competitors and said, "Just so you know, I do the social media. I've left the pub now. Would you like me to do yours?" And they said, "Yeah." Because I know that social media kind of fell down the list for most businesses, because for most businesses, they have to do their admin, their HR, their accounts, and all that kind of stuff, and talk to people and open the doors, etc., etc. Marketing kind of falls down the list. So it was like just an outsourced service that I was providing to some of my competitors. And that's how my business started, basically, because I've got all the years of experience and all the years of education, and I thought I can deliver that. And because I'm running a pub, I learned that actually it's an outsource. It's a necessity for most businesses to outsource to somebody else. So that's how that started.
Excellent. So do you still have a lot of your customers through that same industry, or have you diversified more now?
I have one that's kind of been with me forever, like a local bar and restaurant. So I love that. But actually, I've diversified into kind of service sector businesses. So although that's also service sector, but they're obviously providing a particular product. So I now work with, for example, HR firms, accountancy firms, photographers, videographers, wealth managers, that kind of stuff. Simply because I tried both. So I tried product marketing and I tried service sector marketing, and I failed at product marketing. Product marketing is a whole different area of marketing, and it's obviously like, for example, people are selling something, so it's like it's a tangible product. Whereas with the service sector, it's not tangible, so you have to tell stories. And because I always love telling stories, and I'm a storyteller, and particularly LinkedIn is a great place to tell those stories. So that's what I do with my clients there, kind of thing. So, and again, so even to this day, I'm finding things that I'm not good at, which is good, because then I find the things I am good at, which then kind of obviously I can amplify.
Yeah, excellent. It's a really good way to be learning, isn't it?
Absolutely.
So co-organising the fantastic Uplift Live. So how much work was that, and why do you think it was so good? Because the feedback is pretty much universally, it was amazing, wasn't it? So
no, I really appreciate that. Yeah, thank you so much. So so for anybody watching who doesn't know, so myself and two of my friends, John Esperian and Jeremy Freeman, we put together the UK's first LinkedIn focused conference, which we called Uplift Live. And it was, by our own, well, like, even if we do say so ourselves, it was great. It exceeded our expectations. We had 200 people in the room. We had 8 of the world's kind of greatest LinkedIn specialists on stage. And it was just, it was really good. And obviously, again, because I've dedicated my business now to focusing on LinkedIn, to create a conference around that. It was John's idea. They said, "Oh, we should do this, and can
Yeah.
you help?" And I was like, "Yeah, of course. I think it's a no-brainer kind of thing, because I think it puts us at the forefront of that platform, that sector, that industry, and in front of others, etc." But it was an incredible amount of work, and I think that's
Mm.
the thing. Particularly I think the problem is lots of businesses and lots of careers fail because people either don't understand how much work it takes, or they see how much work it takes and decide against it. And I think sometimes the life is only as good as the effort that you put in. And I think that's the thing, because we spent 9 months I should say, putting lots of effort in. We
Yeah.
delivered something that was good. But also, having said that, all three of us that organized it, we've been to like a million conferences, slight
Yes.
exaggeration, but we've been to a lot. And I think that's the thing. We can take the best bits of other conferences, we can see what we didn't like, and
Yeah.
it helped us deliver that. If I tried delivering Uplift Live 7 years ago when I started my business, Uplift Live would have failed, because at that time I wasn't really a conference goer. I
Yeah.
didn't really, etc.
Yeah.
So I think over years, with experience, we've learned a lot to then be able to deliver something good for the attendees, the people that want
Yeah.
to be a part of it, etc. So,
Yes.
so
You
yeah.
did quite a lot of work as well, didn't you? Asking people what they liked and what they didn't like about conferences as well. So you were kind of involving the audience right from day one.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the thing. And it's what we found is that, so whenever I go to events, networking is a really big part of it. And what people don't want to do is like come to a conference, get talked at, and then leave. So we organized kind of some like pre-event networking
Yeah.
meetings, which we called the launch pad. And then obviously there's the conference itself. We had a pre-party the night before. We made sure that the conference itself had lots of breaks, etc., because we wanted people to connect. Because otherwise you could just host something online, right?
Yeah.
You could just send somebody a video and say, here you go. Actually, it's, as with anything in life, it's how you make people feel.
Yeah.
And again, the old cliche is that people won't remember what you say, they remember how you make them feel. So we wanted people to come and obviously have a good time and enjoy it, but
Yeah.
also leave with an incredible amount of knowledge, as well. So
Yeah.
yeah, and we did involve everybody as well. And even post event, we sent out a survey and said, what did you think? We had, I wouldn't say negative feedback. We had some constructive kind of criticism
Yeah.
and feedback, which John then actually put into a blog and then answered all the questions in a blog kind of thing. And we said,
Yeah.
here's what somebody said, and here's our answer to that kind of thing. And
Yeah.
which that was John's idea. I thought that was great. And
Yeah. It was
and
good.
again, it's all about full transparency, right? That's the thing. I think that
Yeah.
there's no, we don't want any smoke and mirrors. It's like, this is the event, this is how much it
Yeah.
costs, this is what's going to happen before, during, and after. And
Yeah.
so we'd love everybody to be a part of it.
Yeah. No, it was excellent. I think there was a genuine sense of belonging. I thought that you just felt like everyone was included, and
Thank
yeah,
you
I
so
can't
much.
wait for next year.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate that. Yeah, Thursday the 27th of March.
Excellent. Well, I've
But you
already
didn't
got
ask
my there.
you didn't ask for the sales pitch, I know, but
No, no,
I've got it
no.
ready. I'm happy
Yeah.
to.
Okay, so we sort of started to run short on time. So all my guests so far have mentioned values when they're looking for work. So in terms of clients they work with or jobs they'll take. So do you think your personal values have an impact on the type of work or who you'll work with?
Yes, now they do. So
Yes.
there's a couple of jobs I've had in my career, which quite frankly, I took those jobs because I needed money, to pay bills
Yes.
and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
One particular job, when I worked in the motorsport sector, like my boss was just the worst of people. He was just such a horrible guy. But I was there because I had bills to pay.
Yeah.
Um, and then I got a great job after that, which paid me a lot more money and all that kind of stuff, etc., which was great. So it's kind of, you sometimes always have to look for that next step, etc. And
Yeah.
now, so when I started my business, very early doors, I had to, quite frankly, take on any
Take
client
anything. Yeah.
that would money.
Yeah.
And so there always has to be a base where you kind of work from. But actually,
Yeah.
values are super important. Values have to align. So particularly because I do LinkedIn training, I
Yeah.
don't talk about automations. I don't talk about AI. I don't talk about fake stuff. I don't talk about kind of plugins or hacks or engagement pods
Yeah.
or all that kind of stuff. So and when clients start talking about things like that, for me, it's red flags. And I'm like, if that's what you want, then I'm not the guy for you, basically.
Yeah.
I teach kind of authentic, honest work with integrity and all that kind of stuff, etc.
Yeah.
So they're the kind of values that I have, and I expect my clients to. Sorry, not expect. I like clients that have those same kind of values as well.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. Okay, so final question. Any advice for students who are about to leave school, college, or university who want to get into marketing and or social media?
That's a great question. My advice would be to do all of the learning, to really throw yourself in, but not try to be all things to all people. And again, when
Yeah,
I started my marketing agency, it was like, well, I can do copywriting and I can make websites and I can do SEO and I can do Facebook ads and I can do social media management and all that kind of stuff.
yeah,
And essentially, ultimately, I failed at everything, and that's the thing. I did everything kind of averagely as opposed to a few things really well. Hence why I've kind of niched into marketing strategy and LinkedIn training. They're the kind of the things that I'm good at now. So I think my advice to school leavers, anybody at college, university, etc., is learn all the stuff that's involved in the industry, but pick an area which you really want to go at kind of and do really well, whether it's
yeah,
advertising or whether it's social media, and even in social media, it's particular channels. It's like, I want to be great
yeah,
at Facebook ads, or I want to be
yeah,
great at LinkedIn training and all that kind of stuff. Um,
yeah,
there's I think in most industries and most sectors there is so much, and I think if you have a niche and you know what you want to do, you have to learn everything around it, but focus on the nucleus of your work. I think
yeah,
that's the thing. The thing that lights you up as well. I think that's the thing. The thing that
yeah.
really makes you happy and you think, oh, I can do this all day, every day. If something makes you sad, don't do it. Basically.
Yeah, that's really great advice. Excellent. Well, thank you very much for joining me, Gus, and thank you to, well, John, who was watching, and anybody else who might have been watching. And next week, I'm back on Thursday at 1 o'clock with Anne Vigouroux, who is marketing communications expert within financial services. So she talks a lot about putting the va-va-voom back into financial services. So looking
Yeah,
forward to chatting to her. So
fun.
thanks again, Gus, and I will see you all next week.
Yeah,
Thank
thank you
you.
so much. Thanks for having me. Take care,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Bye.